Now that we are officially underway into the real deal of the major, the 16 teams are qualified and playing, there's a lot to break down, specifically from Valve end and how significantly they have dropped the ball for investing over the past couple of weeks and even years. First up, talking about major stickers. Now obviously major stickers used to be the play for guaranteed profit. If you want to look from the period of when they existed to about 2021, every single time you invested into them, there was guaranteed profit. Even with RMR, even though it's not sitting at a huge expensive price point today, there was a period where they were all extremely expensive, and that's not something we're seeing anymore. And I think it's mostly on Valve's inability to go ahead and diversify how the stickers are looking has not only affected them negatively in the long term, but obviously us as investors. If we want to look at it, Paris grossed 110 million for the teams alone. That means Valve has taken at least 50% of that as well. That's $220 million. Therefore, it's understandable why Valve has not changed up this system. SkinSwap is today's sponsor, and they're also sponsoring you with a free bonus for signing up with the first link in the description. They're the premier place for CSGO and Rust skins, with a massive trading site and a top-of-the-line marketplace, offering you the most competitive rates out there and a massive 40% bonus when you're using that link in the description. Combine that with their top-of-the-line selling feature with many payout options, and their trading feature legitimately taking you just about a minute, and there's no reason not to sign up with that first link in the description. Now, how can you profit off of something like this going on with major stickers? So obviously the opportunities are not extremely large, but I think there's definitely some when we want to look at the investments that have already panned out well. The truth is, these new investments are going to be more and more risky every time. We saw what happened with Paris. Copenhagen is very likely to follow down a similar route of having such a massive supply and the demand really not being as strong as we would want it to be for as ideal as an investment. Therefore, when we're looking at some of these older investments like Antwerp, Stockholm, and specifically the ones that are extremely old, you can find something that doesn't have a ton of supply out there but still has a consistent amount of demand. I think you're going to be in a very profitable position if you want to make an investment that way. The biggest thing when it comes to this is just making sure you're making a smart investment that has an actual amount of demand there and not just investing into something because you want to pick up a sticker investment. Don't force yourself into a sticker investment, especially in the current market dynamics. Now, talking about Valve dropping the ball with cases, there's two things I want to focus in on. First up, this graph right here. This is the supply rate of change over a 30-day moving average, and you can see right here when we were looking at about a negative 600,000 case deficit per day. That means that 600,000 cases are being deleted from the game, more than are coming into the games. These are including the cases coming into the game being dropped, and therefore Valve went ahead and released the Anubis package, and you can see how quickly this graph transitioned. In my honest opinion, I think this is a very negative thing when it comes for investment, because not only is the Anubis package still in the game, but it also takes away potentially of us receiving more cases, and that's the other factor I want to talk about with cases. We have seen less and less cases come out every single year, and therefore with Valve slowing down, obviously it was something that did need to happen because we couldn't keep producing skins and cases at the rate we were back in 2015, 2016, but we do need to still have cases come into the game if we want to see these investments that are in the active duty pool actually have a chance to go ahead and develop. If we want to look at the snakebite and the clutch, the reason that they're struggling right now is because the supply is so massive. They were in the active duty pool for so long, meaning that they need so long to develop afterwards. It just slows down the overall investing process when we're talking about cases here, because Valve is taking so long to produce new ones that the older ones, or the ones that are currently out there, just really have so much time that they need to develop afterwards, and it creates a longer and longer cycle for every new case that's going to come out in the future. Now, how you can profit off of this is actually a lot more straightforward than the previous one. That's because if we want to look at the cases that have already started their development process, they're in a much better situation. That's because they don't have as strong of a competitor from these newer cases. Therefore, they have a strong demand and a little bit less of competition. Therefore, they're going to be in a much better position to go ahead and increase on that profit trajectory. We're seeing a lot of them already start to develop. I would say the biggest thing with this area is don't generalize all cases together. If you want to look at specifics of each case, they're significantly different in what they offer and the opportunity that they hold, in my personal opinion. Although they generally start to move in waves together, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're all equal. If we want to look at it, a lot of cases have outpaced other cases just because of the pure demand, a lower supply, or some other interesting factor that they have about them. Don't group them all together. Specifically look at which cases you want to make an investment into, and it's an area that I obviously highly suggest you look at, especially the cases that are in the rare drop pool that are already developed, and they only make up 1% of the drop pool, so it's really hard for you to go wrong as long as you do your research. Talking about operations, it's also another area that we've seen a huge letdown from Valve. We haven't seen a brand new operation in about 2.5 years, and we want to look at Operation Riptide. It was an absolutely failure of an event when we look at it. They had a lot of errors about knives not loading in, and everyone just seemed it was like a copy and paste of what we saw for Broken Fang. There's a lack of innovation from Valve here, and when we want to look at these shops, you can really see it was the exact same thing, just with a different font. With that being said, operations are actually the most important event for investing. If we want to talk about an operation, the amount of investments that come into the game is extremely crucial because there's a lot of hidden gem opportunities. If we want to look at the Riptide Surf Shop sticker shop, we can see how many stickers came into the game and how many of them have ended up being one of the most profitable investments you could have made from Riptide. Talk about operation skins, they were also there as well. Operations are a crucial point for investing, and the fact that we haven't seen any in 2.5 years has not only stagnated the market because operations bring in so much content and so much money into the game, but it's also hurt investors in other areas because people have had to primarily focus on them. Now, when it comes to profiting off of an operation, the biggest thing is going to be when the operation actually drops. Right now, I would actually suggest you probably stay a little bit further away from these operation investments just because we want to talk about agents, they're heavily inflated. If we want to talk about the items specifically, they're usually a little bit too overpriced for the profit potential that they hold. I think right now there's a lot of opportunity cost that goes into these items, and I really wouldn't suggest picking them up, but when that operation drops next time, that's going to be a huge profit potential if you're there, you have the budget to do so, and you're not selling off your items at a significant loss. Now, talking about the good news, there's actually a pretty decent amount of it. If we want to talk about a brand new stimulation to the game, we're probably going to be seeing some new maps after the Copenhagen Major goes ahead and finishes up. It has to go like that way first just because the Major is going on, but we could potentially see a Cache, a Tucson, a lot of different maps that are in development that I think are a very strong possibility of coming into the game after the Major finishes. Otherwise, we know the developers have been working hard for almost a year now on the brand new version of Danger Zone. Danger Zone was an extremely hard thing to port on Source 1, and coming into Source 2, it had to be completely redone. Therefore, it's not too surprising that we haven't seen it yet, but obviously we want to see it yet. We haven't really seen any new content come into the game in the past month and a half when it comes to game-wise, and I think Danger Zone is the next thing to come into the game, which would be a very great opportunity for so many people to come back. Now, as much as all of those things are extremely great, there's a lot of downsides that also come with this. Specifically, if you want to focus in on the investing aspect, there's a lot of pressure put onto the investing market right now because there's no new content coming into the game. The truth is, the investing market is partially developing on the fact that the game has been growing over the past couple of years, and when that aspect is removed from this area, it definitely puts a lot of strain onto this area. People in this area are looking for fast, quick movements of the market, and it's not something we see every day. If you want to look at the market, it moves in cycles, and usually people are looking for that flat cycle, and then as soon as they start to see a little bit of movement, everyone starts to pile in, and that's why we see those very big peaks. It's why you're able to make so much profit, because people don't really know what they're doing. They just pile drive in. But the truth is, we're not seeing any operations, we're not seeing anything to fuel that little bit of growth at the beginning. It puts the whole market into a very interesting dynamic that what we're seeing right now, where we saw a little bit of a spike there, and then it's just completely gone. We haven't seen any real movement for a major area in a significant amount of time, and therefore it's kind of put the market into a very interesting predicament right now. Now, when we're talking about long-term impacts of something like this, it's actually not too volatile. We look at the market overall, it's on a very strong increasing trajectory when we're looking at a multiple year-long graph, but the truth is, in the short term, it's exactly what we want to see. Who doesn't want to see the profit right now? Who doesn't want to see their inventory go up 20-30% in just the span of a month or two? It's unfortunate, but it's also a cycle, and it's part of the game, and it's something we've seen time and time again. Now, what should you do right now? Well, in my honest opinion, I think one of the worst things you can do right now is go ahead and sell off your items. If we want to look at the markets, none of them are actually excelling right now, and that's the prime opportunity to go ahead and sell off, is when the markets are excelling. But we can look at it, nothing is really going on right now. A lot of them are struggling at best, and usually they're just laying flat. Therefore, I would definitely say it's going to be more of a time to buy than rather sell. But you can do whatever you want as long as you're trusting the data and you're making smart decisions that are long-term decisions. You're going to be putting yourself in the best chance to go ahead and succeed, and that's exactly what I want you to do. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day.